point of this video is to explain how a simple oversight in a game's coding can drastically change how it is played by its best players, for better or worse. I will specifically be talking about the universal mix-up game of Street Fighter 4. In Street Fighter 4, as well as in most fighting games, blocking is the crux of all mix-ups. When a player thinks, how do I perform a mix-up, they're actually asking, how do I prevent the opponent from blocking, or how do I still win even though my opponent is blocking? So blocking nullifies all the damage from most attacks. Now there are special attacks that deal incredibly small amounts of damage when blocked. However, these attacks are usually slow or unsafe, and just in general, it's impossible to create a full strategy revolving around this tiny little bits of damage. There are ways to trick the opponent into not blocking. You can mix up between lows and overheads, which had to be blocked differently. However, the problem is, while lows are pretty decently fast, overheads are really slow and reactable, and you usually don't even get a knockdown off of them. And secondly, you can also switch sides, which also causes the opponent to have to block differently. And there are situations where you can choose which side to be on. I can choose the front, or I can choose to land in the back. However, such situations are very niche and only available to certain characters. So, in other words, blocking is really strong. This is why we have throws. Throws cannot be blocked, and instead have incredibly short range and are unable to hit airborne opponents. So, if the opponent's going to throw me, I can jump, I can backdash, or I can do something that's invincible to throws. The problem is that there are things the opponent can do to beat both jumping and backdashing, while still maintaining offensive pressure when blocked. In fact, I would even say it's easy for the attacker to beat all of these all at the same time. Of course, uppercuts still exist, which will beat this, but let's just say that the risk and reward of an uppercut is not very even. So this really boils down to, it is pretty easy for the attacker to keep applying pressure by mixing up between throws and strikes. So this is why throw techs exist. To perform a throw tech, you just throw each other at about the same time. The thing about throw techs is that you input the throw after you've been thrown. If it's mandatory that both players throw each other at exactly the same time, you would basically never see throw techs. So what they did was they put in a window of about 7 frames after you get thrown where you can input a throw and the throw tech will still happen. And because of these 7 frames, that means that I can block, wait up to 7 frames, and then press throw tech. And if you did a strike, I'll still block the strike, and if you did a throw, I'll still tech the throw. So here is the delayed throw tech beating the throw attempt, and here is the delayed throw tech beating the meaty strike. How then does the attacker make the read and say, I think you're going to do a delayed throw tech? Well, there's a couple of options here. The first option is to time their strike such that it hits the opponent during the startup of their throw. So no matter what happens, they need to match the delay of the opponent, because if they don't, their attack will just be blocked. So they need to wait at about the same time as the opponent waits so that they actually go for the standing throw. And then to punish the standing throw, they can time their strike to hit the opponent right as they start the throw, because the throw has 2 frames of startup. So if they time their strike within that 2-frame window, they will hit the opponent as they're starting their throw attack. And this, but as you can see, it's incredibly difficult. And in fact, because the throw tech window is 7 frames, and the window to punish the startup of the throw is only 2 frames, that means that the one that's going for the throw tech actually gets to choose where in that 7-frame window they want to go for the throw tech, which means that not only is it a 2-frame window, which is really hard to hit, but you don't know when that 2-frame window is. It's up to the opponent. And in fact, this strategy doesn't even work unless the game hard programs in a throw startup. games like KOF and Guilty Gear have no startup on their throws. So once again, the other weakness of throws is their limited range. So what I can do is I can walk into throw range and then walk out of throw range, which baits the opponent into thinking that I'm going for a throw, but I'm actually not. So this is something that you see in Street Fighter V all the time, where the attacker does something like this, where they walk backwards and they punish the opponent for trying to throw tech. So this time, instead of punishing the startup of the throw, we're punishing the recovery of the throw after they whiff it, which extends the window from 2 frames to several frames. So the trick then is to bait the opponent into attempting the throw tech while being outside of throw range, which is what the shimmy is. So why do you see shimmies in Street Fighter V but not Street Fighter IV? Well, the answer to that is crouch teching. So crouch teching is that programming oversight thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. And basically what it boils down to is, when you are thrown and the game wants to tell if the throw should be throw teched, it doesn't care what your character is doing as much as it cares about what buttons you've pressed. This means that it's possible to input the buttons for a throw, but not go for a standing throw. What this means for the game is that I don't have to go for the risk of a standing throw in order to defend against my opponent's throw. And it's as simple as crouching and pressing a throw, which instead of giving you a throw, gives you a crouching button. And in fact, you can choose which button to do by adding a button. So if I wanted to do crouching medium kick, I would input the buttons for throw as well as the medium kick. Like that. I can do it with medium punch, I can do it with medium kick, I can do it with heavy punch, I can do it with heavy kick, I can do it with anything that is a crouching button. This does not work with standing buttons because the throw will out-prioritize whatever button you press. So this throws several wrenches into the otherwise pretty stable mix-up game of Street Fighter IV, because if I hit you with a throw, you know, I get 100 damage and a knockdown, give or take some damage depending on the character and which side you throw them on. But if I hit you with a crouch tech, I get to do whatever I want. I can even spend meter to extend the combo. I can go into an ultra. I can do so many different things that, wow, that are not possible off of a regular throw. In fact, if he goes for a shimmy to punish my throw attack, but instead I do a crouch tech with medium kick, he gets hit. So he effectively made the right read and is like, I think he's going to try and attack my throw, so I'm going to do a shimmy. He gets the read, but he gets hit. Crouch teching beats shimmying. It is literally impossible to trick an intelligent opponent into thinking that they are within throw range, but the reality is that they are outside of their longest range crouching attack. It's just not possible. So now the attacker is forced into going back to that less reliable strategy of hitting me during my startup, which means that delayed crouch tech after every blocked normal, delayed crouch tech after every knockdown is very potent and extremely difficult to deal with. That being said, there are ways to effectively extend the punish window beyond 2 frames, but it has to be something that is invincible both to strikes and to throws, and it has to be fast enough to still punish you for attempting the crouch tech. And such things are usually extremely high risk with low reward in comparison to options that would be available to you in a world that didn't have crouch teching. So even at very high levels of play, it's extremely difficult to actually get a throw on the opponent. And the mind games devolve into, I wonder when he'll crouch tech. And I don't mean to say that crouch teching is bad game design. I'm saying that specifically in Street Fighter IV, the inclusion of crouch teching in combination with other offensive and defensive mechanics that build upon the mix-up game causes that mix-up game to be primitive and comically boring to both watch and play. There are several solutions to this problem. and removing crouch techs is just one of them. Street Fighter V actually does this, but I've already made a video explaining why the Mixup game is still stupid in Street Fighter V. Another solution is to have some other mechanic which punishes you for going for crouch techs. For example, in Yatagarasu, you can just parry. This effectively emulates the scenario of not having crouch techs by making crouch techs weak to something in the same ways that stand techs are. Probably the most common solution, which exists in several different titles, is extended throw invincibility, which is to say that after you wake up from a knockdown, instead of me being able to throw you immediately, there's a few frames after you get up where I still can't throw you, but you can hit me. Now this actually exists in Street Fighter IV, but it's 2 frames. Games like KOF and Guilty Gear, however, have several frames, which effectively means that if you block something, and you think to yourself, I bet he's going to go for a throw here, that means you can do a quick button, and then I'll always hit them, because they have to wait. They have to wait, because there's throw invincibility where they can't throw you. So that's an extra defensive option, which is pressing a button quickly to beat the throw attack. Now the attacker has incentive to go for a frame trap. And now, since the attacker has incentive to go for a frame trap, you as the defender have incentive to block. And since the defender has incentive to block, now the attacker has incentive to go for the throw again, and it's just a loop. So now there's an actual mind game there, whereas in Street Fighter IV, it's just when will he crouch tech? Because you know they're going to crouch tech.